Welcome back. Today we're going to continue our series on how to use the StructureMap IOC container. In the prior episode we took a look at how we can set up StructureMap to perform auto-registration of our types. And this way allows you to use StructureMap and says, you know what, I have a predefined convention of iFoo is implemented by the foo concrete class, and it will actually register all your types for you. This is a great way to get started, but if you want to do either more complicated setting up of your types, or if you're not following that convention within your application, what do? Well, fortunately, StructureMap takes this into account, and there are various ways you can solve this problem. Today we're going to take a look at how to use StructureMap and set up what's called registries within your application, and your registries will define your mappings for your types. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's the home page for StructureMap. If you want to check it out, it is an open source project. Now, last time we created a registry that did look something like this. It would basically call the scanner and say, let's scan the calling assemblies, and let's use the default convention. And that actually worked out pretty well for our last example. But in this example, since we want to use the registry concept, it's not quite going to work the way we want. So how do we use the registry within StructureMap? Well, I want to create a class. It needs to be public. And I'm going to call this, IOC registry. And it needs to implement the registry base class. And this is actually part of the StructureMap configuration namespace. Let's move that to its own class so we can get that up top real quick. And it's within this registry that you need to override a single method. And the one you want to override is configure. And configure is what's actually called by StructureMap. And so this is where you want to do all your configuration. In our example today, we're going to start off and do a very simple configuration where we basically follow our convention, our naming convention. But we'll also take a look at if you're not following your naming convention and whatnot. It's these scenarios where you're not following your naming convention, or if you want to do more customized configuration, where this is really useful. So how do we wire up a basic interface to be a concrete class to be constructed when you're asking for an interface? So if I do for requested type, and this is a generic, so I'm going to say iUser login, use a login service. The default is of concrete type, user login service. And you can see how the fluent syntax follows. So you're saying, so when I request some type, the default is of a concrete type of X. And you repeat this over and over again for all the various types. Now the drawback to using these registries is as you add new classes, new interfaces, if you're not following the default conventions, you do need to actually remember to put those here. Let's go ahead and do user repository. And we'll just complete this code to show there's no voodoo magic going on behind the scenes. And so I've now wired up my registry, and I've got my concrete classes and my interfaces all hooked up. So I can come back to my Bootstrap, and I can actually do one of two things. I can leave this all the same and add in the code here, scanner dot look for registries, and that will scan all my assemblies, all my classes in the current assembly, and we'll look for the registry. Or I could do the second option, which is I could comment out this code. And come down here. Do add registry. And I can do new IOC and basically inform it of all the registries one by one by one. Multiple different ways I could do this, just completely up to you. We're actually going to use the scanning mechanism. And if I run this code right now over my test harness, I should be able to run this and see my stuff populate just fine. Let's bounce over here, and if I debug this, let's step over this. So everything was wired up correctly. If I step over this again, you'll see that I have an instance in my user repository. All right, well, that's pretty cool. I can now bootstrap and look for registries. But as in the last example, what if I have multiple assemblies where I want to put registries? Well, actually, you don't really have to do anything. Everything works the same. However, as it sits right now, if I bounce back to my unit test, and if I add in this right here, where I say I'm looking for my demo repository is in my second DLL. I already have my registry set up for it, and I'm saying when I ask for demo, give me the legacy demo, so here my convention is not being followed. If I do this, as it sits right now, it should actually fail. And sure enough, when I hit my get instance for demo repository, it blows up. And let's see what the error it gives me is. No default instance for iDemo repository. Why is that? Well, in the same manner, when we were taking a look at how to use auto registration, you can't just simply say look for all registries because it doesn't know what assemblies to look in. So in order to do this, what you actually have to do is do scanner.assembly containing a type. So now I've actually told StructureMap which assemblies to look at. Now it should work. So let's bounce back to my unit test and see if it works. F10 over that. And sure enough, it does actually return me an instance of my legacy demo repository. So one thing to keep in mind here, one thing to pay attention to is no matter what you do in StructureMap, you need to tell it what assemblies contain information. It doesn't just know where to look. It doesn't just start guessing at what assemblies to look through. Because if you have a large application with dozens, if not 100 assemblies, you don't want that performance overhead. So the decision was made, tell me what you want me to look for, and I'll go look for it. So in a future episode, we'll take a look at using these registry concepts, but we'll take a look at how to create and build more sophisticated mappings within StructureMap. In our demo today, I know that we, for the most part, followed our convention, as in a similar manner as the last episode where we use the auto registration. But I just want to show you that you can use a registry class and you can set these up, and they can be anywhere in your application. They could be in a helper assembly that is just referenced by everybody, or you can put them in each assembly. It's completely up to you. You just need to tell StructureMap where to look. It will scan it, it will register all your types, and it will render them perfectly for you the first time you ask for them. So I hope you learned something, and until next time.